Welcome to another season of Home Again TV. This season we'll be visiting communities that will tell the story of us. From the rich history of music and dance to the traditions and community values that shape us as people. Having grown up on Long Street just east of downtown Columbus, I have personal stories and experiences that intertwine with that of the community that surround me. Join me each week as I return to my childhood roots, as I talk with experts and community leaders that will share stories of today and yesterday. We will learn new resources that will teach us where to go from here. We owe it to the next generation to own this conversation, to share our stories, and to help guide them home again.
Promotional consideration for today's show brought to you by BritSmart Security, the #1 leading home security provider in Central Ohio.
I'm standing outside of Poindexter Village, which is the community in between Mount Vernon and Long Street. I actually grew up on Long Street, and if you take a little peek in between those two buildings right there, you can see the home that I grew up in. If we don't stop and recognize what regentrification did to certain communities, it can continue to happen again. So right now is a great time to begin this conversation. This season on Home Again TV, we will stop and recognize people and individuals who made an impact in these communities. I'm standing in the community of Poindexter Village, which is in between Long Street and Mount Vernon. This season during Home Again TV, we will stop and recognize those communities that help make an impact on African Americans, primarily in the Columbus or 614 area. During this season of Home Again TV, we will enter into these communities and not only talk about leaderships that impacted the communities, but we'll talk with families. We'll talk about family history. We'll learn more about DNA and what it means to understand about where we come from and having those resources available to learn about where we can go. And then we'll talk more about legacy, understanding who it is that positioned us to be where we are today. During this season, you're going to be so excited to be a part of the journey with me. We will talk about streets like Long Street, Mount Vernon. We'll talk about Hamilton. We'll talk about Cleveland Avenue. We'll even go as far as High Street because, again, High Street was a major port for where African Americans begin their journey. So I have a real cool family story. We're standing across the street from where I grew up. If you take a look directly back there at that gold house was my childhood home. What I think is really good is about when community comes together to help one another. What was cool was when I was in 6th grade, I went to Champion Middle School, which is like where we were a couple of minutes ago. And what would happen was my grandmother would watch me leave the home. I would walk out of my grandmother's house, walk across the street. Now this, of course, is the fire department's parking lot, and they would have it securely locked because they would have their cars in here. They would open it up specifically just for little old me from Long Street so that they would watch me as well as my grandmother walk through Poindexter Village during the 80s, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and to make sure that I safely arrived to Champion Middle School. During the 80s, Poindexter Village was going through its transition, and it was challenged with being the most safest place. So that, again, when community comes together to connect, they help one another become their better selves. The fire department was a perfect example of that, where they grouped with my grandmother to help me to ensure that I made it to school safely every day.
I actually watched my cousin pitch in the Negro League. I actually watched my, he told me, he said, now boy, pitch it in the cup and pitch it in the, it's okay. When he wound up and pitched, I caught it wrong. The Negro League, people don't know, is on the backside of Cooper Stadium on Mount Street. They wouldn't allow us to play in the one day. We played on the back vacant lot every time they came to Columbus.
Put up a bottle of wine or something like that and say you're going to pour something to the ground for the win. Okay, that's our way of completing the service and giving respect to those who have gone before us.
But we can't be on these grounds without saying and recognizing many of the ancestors that lived here and have gone on to be most successful individuals that were a product of Poindexter Village. And it's named for a gentleman who is the role model and I like to say was the Martin Luther King of his day, Reverend Poindexter. We cannot be on this land and not recognize the importance of his legacy and his integrity and his core values